And over a dozen lawmakers called for a vote to ban members of Congress from trading individual stocks. Kristen Purnell joins us live in studio with where things stand new this morning.
Well, good morning, Kate. It's a bill that has recently gained more attention with growing bipartisan support. Congressman Magaziner and many Republicans are urging congressional leadership to hold a vote to confront the issue as quickly as possible. The Trust in Congress Act aims to restore public confidence in government and reduce the risk of insider trading. The legislation would make it so members of Congress, along with their spouses and dependent children, must either divest from individual stocks or move them to a blind trust. Magaziner's push for a vote came on the same day that Speaker Mike Johnson voiced support for a stock trading ban. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries also endorsed the ban, marking the first time a congressional leader from either party has publicly backed it. Magaziner says voters should be able to trust lawmakers are prioritizing the country's interests, not their own financial gain.
We should be making decisions based just on what is best for the people. The American people recognize that this is a reform that is long overdue. Poll after poll has shown upwards of 90% of the American people supporting a ban of members trading stocks.
Insider trading must stop, and I can tell you that banning stock trading for members of Congress and their spouse should not be something that is in question. We must rebuild the actual image of Congress.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see from that intro, yeah, that is good. This is finally happening. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But it's very, very fascinating. This is. We finally have some Congress people that are willing to stand up to this nonsense, right? A lot of people, they can't stand that, the members of Congress are allowed to trade stocks because they kind of have insider information on the stock market, right? Because they control legislation in this country and they can control, or they at least know about when, certain companies are going to get grants or they're going to pass legislation allowing some company or some industry to thrive or grow or expand or do anything like that. So a lot of people, they are particularly butthurt about Congress people being allowed to trade in stocks. I've never been one of those people, to be honest with you. A lot of people are going to cheer for this. Me, however, I'm like, I really don't care about this because honestly, I take the Nancy Pelosi strategy. If I had any stocks, of course, you guys know I can't afford to buy any stocks at all. I'm one of those type of people that I live paycheck to the day before paycheck, essentially, for the most part, right? Because I'm just a broke guy that's just barely making it. So I can't ever afford to buy stocks. But when I do get to a position to where I can afford to buy stocks, I would like to have some sort of guiding principle to guide me down the road to success, right? And Nancy Pelosi is clearly successful. And I would love to be able to follow Congress people when they trade stocks because they are always successful for some reason. That's what I think, at least. I don't care. See, to me, this comes from a place of jealousy. That's how I view it, to be honest with you. That, they're allowed because they have insider trading. Just make the same trades. That's all you got to do, right? It just seems to me that a lot of people are mad because Congress, they go in, they're supposed to be working for you, and then they immediately commits to enriching themselves. Right? That's to me, that's just natural. Of course, they're going to try to become richer. They have a little bit of disposable income, whatever that may be, because they get money from the government, and they do a lot of fundraising. A lot of fundraising. As a matter of fact, 90% of their job is fundraising, in case you guys didn't know that. And then acting a fool is 9%, another 9% of their job, and then 1% is actually showing up and voting on legislation. It's ridiculous. I think if you want some meaningful legislation, drop that nonsense and make these people, take the money out of politics, make it illegal, ban these congressmen from fundraising. Outright, just blatantly. Ban the lobbyists, just blatantly outright, like corporate lobbies. We can't have that. That is the root of the corruption in Congress, if you ask me. That is absolutely the root. Allowing these people to trade stocks, that's just freedom to me. Sure, they may have some insider trading, right? But it's not absolute, folks. It's not actual insider trading. They have a little bit of insider knowledge, right? Because they could still pick a company that goes belly up, right? They have all these companies to choose from. They just passed some legislation that's going to allow that industry to just explode like you wouldn't believe, right? But maybe they picked the wrong company. Is that insider trading? Sure, you might agree. You might say yes, but I don't think so. Well, once again, I've made my position on that clear. I think this, once again, this is a psy-op. It's a distraction to get you away from what's actually going on. Right? The lobby interest, folks. We need to get it through to Congress. Write your congressman. Tell them, hey, look, we know what you do. We know 90% of your job is raising funds for other people. And, if you happen to scrape a little bit off the top, get a little bit under the table, nobody knows about that. I find it to be reprehensible, if you ask me. Trading stocks, I could care less about that, to be honest with you. Once again, I see this as a distraction, folks. It is intent to make you think that they are doing something for the purposes of transparency. So it raises, like even that congressman says, we need to build trust back in Congress, and this is the way to do it. How is that? How is that building any trust? You guys still do not do your freaking jobs. Once again, I could really care less. If these people were actually doing their job, they want to do some insider trading, who gives a damn? If they did their job, they're not doing their job. Because they're too intently focused on fundraising. I do have a news article, by the way. I absolutely do. I know I've been kind of ranting a long time on this, but once again, folks, I see these things. They come out with this legislation that sounds great. It's like, oh, well, they're actually trying to root out some corruption from Congress. Why? Because most people are like, well, they do insider trading, and that's wrong. That's corrupt. But it's not really the same as insider trading, like I was explaining. But like I was saying, let's get off of this topic because I'm repeating myself, if you will. Let's get into the actual news. Check this out. House Republicans float compromise to placate warring factions. Faster Medicaid cuts and larger SALT deductions. Is that so? Let's get into this, y'all. Speaker Mike Johnson is exploring ways to placate two rival factions who have emerged as the biggest roadblocks in the House to a massive bill for President Donald Trump's agenda. Blue state Republicans who want larger tax breaks for their constituents, and conservatives who want Medicaid cuts to kick in sooner. Yeah, that's because the Medicaid cuts, they're not going to kick in until 5 years down the road. And once again, these bills, they group in all kinds of nonsense just to get people on board to vote for these things, folks. Oh, you want, X amount of $1 million for your district? Write it in there, amendment. Boom. There you go. And there's 435 congressmen they have to do this to get these people on board. Right? They don't do it for all 435, obviously. But they do it for a lot of them, folks. And once again, it's all nonsense. They put in these stipulations that, these cuts, they're not going to start until 4 or 5 years down the road. Like, what? I thought we were trying to balance the budget, y'all. I thought we were trying to do something for the American people. That's what you guys told me, but that's not what this legislation does. Because this would give the companies time to reorganize, to shift things around, to essentially acclimate to this legislation so their overhead, it's not damaged by this in any way, so they can still maintain their profits. It's absurd, y'all. It really is. It really is. There's a lot of this bill that's absolutely absurd. But let's keep going. Johnson suggested to reporters Wednesday that provisions for a higher state and local tax or SALT deductions and to enforce new Medicaid work requirements sooner could be incorporated into the final package as he stares down a self-imposed Memorial Day weekend deadline for passage. I am convinced that we'll be able to adjust the dial, so to speak, so that we can come to an agreement that will meet the criteria that everybody has and that we can move this thing forward, Johnson said after meeting with pro-SALT Republicans and hard right Freedom Caucus members. See, once again, folks, everybody's got to get their little provisions for them. They're not worried about the bigger picture. None of these congressmen are worried about the bigger picture. This is why Congress can never get anything done. They're too worried about themselves. They're not worried about the country at all. If you do more on SALT, you have to find more savings. So these are the dials, the metaphorical dials that I'm talking about, he said. We are trying to do this in a deficit-neutral way. That was the commitment that we all made. Yeah, trying to do it in a deficit-neutral way, but you're not because you're still $1 trillion into the red. Still more than $1 trillion into the red. You're way into the red. We need to make some massive cuts to get us out of the red. And all these little pet projects and all this tax deduction here and these people want this for their district and blah, 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 blah nonsense has to freaking go. We're not going to be able to balance the budget otherwise. But they don't seem to understand that. We need something for our districts because they think that if they get some sort of win for their district, that they can go back home when they campaign and tout whatever that was, and they're going to win re-election, folks. This is all about keeping themselves in power because this is free money to them. $242,000 a year, all to go and raise money and scrape a little bit off the top. That's what you're paying your congressmen to do. These people do not do the actual work necessary to make your life easier or to balance the budget or to do any other thing, right? This is why I always say we need all new congressmen. Once again, folks, there's several congressmen that I like. I just love Chip Roy. Chip Roy is my favorite congressman. Like, maybe he can stay. But everybody else has to go. Even the other ones that I like, because nobody is willing to do the work. It's all about them. It's all about their constituency. Nobody, absolutely nobody, looks at the bigger picture of what's right for the country. None of them, but they all say that that's what they're working on behalf of. Oh, the country, but they're not. They're working on behalf of themselves for the most part, and then maybe a tiny portion for their constituents. But that's kind of in the air, if you will. That's a question mark because most of them do not do anything for their constituents. Oh, you want tax breaks? Who is that going to help, by the way? You want these tax breaks for this district and this district. That's not going to help anybody. A tax break, really? When we're running the government in an almost $2 trillion deficit? You want tax breaks right now? I know tax breaks is Donald Trump's big thing. But currently, I don't think tax breaks are going to fix the deficit issues. At all. I really don't. I don't like taxes at all. But somebody's got to pay for the infrastructure. Somebody's got to pay for the military. Somebody's got to pay for fucking Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security, for goodness sakes, which I think none of those should even exist, to be honest with you. I really don't mind paying taxes, but I do not like paying for somebody else's health care, paying for somebody else's living expenses, for goodness sakes. You think that Social Security money, I'm going to get that? No, I'm not, probably. I probably won't. I'll probably work till I die, to be honest with you. Most people die before they even receive a single penny from Social Security. It's absurd, y'all. It really is. It's a broken system. You want to talk about something broken? Yeah, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, they're all broken. They just don't work. Asked if Republicans will speed up the Medicaid work requirements to extract larger savings in a revised plan, Johnson replied, "Everything is on the table." Yeah, that's garbage right there. That is just absolute garbage. House Minority Leader Steve Scalise told NBC News that the work requirements for Medicaid will kick in earlier than 2029, when the current bill would trigger them. Asked what the new time frame would be, Scalise said, "We don't have an exact date, but it'll be sooner than what's in the current bill." Oh, how much sooner? 2028? These people are insane, y'all. They really are. That approach has potential to win over conservative hardliners who want the new Medicaid rules to take effect earlier. Not just earlier, immediately. That's what we need. There is millions of people on Medicare and Medicaid that do not deserve those benefits, as a matter of fact. There's many, many people out there. We cannot afford health care for everybody with the current tax rate that we have. And Donald Trump is asking for tax breaks, which, once again, like I was saying, I don't mind tax breaks, but I do mind paying for other people's health care. I don't like that at all. I really don't, folks. I hate that fact. It is ridiculous. I think it has driven up costs. I think it has made people's lives not much better off. I don't think it's done anything for anybody, to be honest with you, except maybe the elderly. Maybe the elderly. That is the compromise that could work, Rep. Tim Burchett said. Republicans say they've made steady progress on the bill this week, even as some key issues remain unresolved. 11 House committees have now passed their portions of the legislation, sending them to the Budget Committee to cobble together into one package as early as Friday. Nonsense, y'all. It really is. I hate these, once again, because they can just add anything in there that people don't want to vote for. But hang on, there's a provision in there giving them what they want, so they're going to vote for that. They're going to vote for things that they disagree with, morally disagree with. This is how we get paying for service members' abortions and paying for prisoners' transition surgeries and nonsense like that. These ridiculous provisions that they add into these large omnibus bills. It's a reconciliation. It's not an omnibus, but still. There is a difference. But multiple Republicans on that panel have voiced skepticism for the emerging package, including Reps Ralph Norman, Chip Roy, Josh Brecheen, citing issues with the level of spending cuts and uncertainty on matters like SALT. Republicans can lose just one vote on the Budget Committee for the bill to advance. At this point, I'm still a no on the budget proceeding, Norman said Thursday afternoon after a GOP meeting, adding that he plans to meet with Johnson later. We've still got a spending problem. We've got a deficit problem. Yes, I totally agree. That needs to be fixed, folks. We cannot continue down this path. And, you know, Congresswomen like AOC think we could just deficit spend indefinitely. Why not? Roy said he's also a no, insisting that the Medicaid work requirements take effect immediately. Once again, this is why Chip Roy is my favorite congressman, because he is no nonsense. Just all common sense and nothing else. Right? He claims he doesn't go and fundraise at all. The only donors to his campaigns are small dollar donations, apparently. I haven't really looked into it that much, but that's what he says. Once again, those claims are easily verified, but I haven't done that yet. I might just do that. You know what? Now that I think about it, I probably will. In the full House, Johnson can afford just 3 Republican defections on the final bill, so even small factions like the SALT caucus hold enormous power in the negotiations. Those members also tend to hail from critical battleground districts that will determine the balance of power in the next election. But it's far from clear that approach will work, as the specter of more immediate Medicaid cuts could alienate other politically vulnerable Republicans who are already catching heat for the bill's existing spending reductions and limits to the health care program. Yeah, that's because you have the corporate press out there railing and gnashing their teeth that millions of people will die from this. Yes, millions of people will lose their health care, for goodness sakes, and be cut off, and they'll die. That's what the corporate press narrative is telling you. It's utter nonsense. The two sides on Thursday still remained far apart, and Johnson said he expects talks to extend into the weekend, even as he has stuck by a Memorial Day deadline to pass the massive tax cuts, energy, and border package through the lower chamber. Tensions have also been boiling over inside the House GOP over the SALT issue all week, with cracks emerging even among the pro-SALT members about whether to take an offer to lift the $10,000 cap to $30,000. But moderates and conservatives emerged from Johnson's office Thursday saying that their 2-hour meeting was positive and that no red lines were drawn by either side. "We are still working through the numbers," said a moderate Mike Lawler, a SALT caucus member, who says he will vote against the bill unless the deduction cap is hiked higher than the current $30,000 proposal. Wow. The bottom line is a higher SALT cap is going to be in the full bill, and we're going to work through it. The core issue is that if SALT cap goes up, then there's more money you have to go find, added conservative Rep. Byron Donalds, a Freedom Caucus member who is running for governor. Byron Donalds is another one that I like, but such a trade could create a Rubik's Cube problem for House Republicans. Yeah, I agree. While deeper Medicaid cuts and a larger SALT deduction may be a palatable trade to a few dozen hardliners and a handful of blue state members, it may leave a bitter taste for others, most notably politically vulnerable members. While Republicans opted against some of the most dramatic potential cuts to the health care program, their current proposal would still cause 8.6 million people to lose their insurance coverage, according to an early estimate from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. That is a lie. That Congressional Budget Office is not nonpartisan. There is nothing in Washington, D.C. that is nonpartisan. I don't know why they continue to add that qualifier in there. 8.6 million people will lose their coverage. You see what I mean by the corporate press narrative over here? Yeah, the question must be asked, right? Anybody that's thinking rationally will ask the question then. Okay, so this is people's health care, the vulnerable people. Why would they agree to cut this? How does it make sense politically? Hang on just a second then. Do those 8.6 million people deserve those benefits? Huh. That's a good question, isn't it? It is unclear Johnson has the votes to pass the existing Medicaid cuts, which include new work requirements and a host of stricter eligibility checks and paperwork, which critics say will create erroneous burdens for rightful recipients. Rightful recipients, huh? David Valadao, yeah, I guess so, who has the highest share of Medicaid recipients of any GOP-held district, said he's undecided on the existing Medicaid provisions. I haven't looked at the details yet. What? My guy, you serious? You haven't looked at the details yet? And this is a congressman. This legislation has been in the works for months now. Months. He hasn't looked at it yet. What have you been doing, my guy? Obviously not your job. So we're still getting through it and seeing the actual impact, he said. Freshman Rep. Rob Buchanan, who narrowly flipped a Democratic-held district last year, also said he isn't taking a position on the Medicaid provisions just yet. Oh, good luck to him. He's a freshman. Good luck. I imagine he's going through a traumatic experience right now, going into Congress and actually getting there and seeing that just how broken and corrupt that place actually is. Because as soon as you're elected, right, you go in, you get sworn in and all this other nonsense, and you're immediately $250,000 in the hole. And you're like, what? Yeah, it doesn't have to come out of your pocket, but you owe the RNC or the RNCC or the DNC or whatever $250,000 just right off the jump. You have to go out and raise funds to pay that off just to be in good standing. If you ever hear Congress say, I'm a congressman or woman or whatever in good standing, that's what that means. That's exactly what that means. That they've paid that $250,000 annual fee to be in good standing. That's what that means. You can't get committee seats if you're not in good standing. Yeah, that's right. You will not be on any sort of committee at all if you're not in good standing. If you don't go out and raise money for your party, you're not in good standing. That is broken to me. That is BS. We don't elect congressmen to go and raise funds. That, folks, is why they don't get anything done at all. That is exactly why they don't get anything done. They're too worried about others. They're too worried about lobbyists. They're too worried about this and that, and not trying to legislate your life easier, or trying to legislate our budget, for goodness sakes, to where it's balanced like other countries do. It's nonsense. It really is. And it pisses me right off. It really does. It's aggravating as hell. But I need y'all to do me a favor. Smash that like button for me. I would really, really appreciate that. And if you're new around here, subscribe to this channel. This is what we do, folks. We inform the public on the news. We give you our opinion and let you know where the corporate press is not telling you the truth. The manipulation is heavy, folks, and it's always there in every single news article, in every single news story. These people are manipulating you to try to portray a narrative that is divorced from reality. So smash that subscribe button to stay up to date with all the manipulations and how you're being manipulated. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Help spread the message, folks. And by the way, look right below the video. Do me this favor. Click that join button. Become a member. Sign up. It's $5, $10, whatever it may be, right? It's only $5 or $10. I'm not asking for much. Just a little bit to help me spread the message, to help me get the news to you guys. Help me get that out there and fight this narrative building from the corporate press. Fight this nonsense. Be an active participant in the news, right? Don't just sit idly by and watch the news go by. Stand up and do something, folks. If we are not active in these news articles and voicing our opinions and getting that narrative out there, then the corporate press is just going to run over everything, and they will control the news cycle. We don't want the corporate press and Democrats to control the news cycle, essentially, is what I'm getting at, because they lie, they cheat, they steal, they manipulate on a constant basis. And we just want the truth, don't we? That's one way to do it. Sign up, become a member, do me that big favor, and y'all let me know what y'all think about all of this down in the comment section, because I'd love to hear from you guys. Y'all let me know what y'all think. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.